Over the years, there have been many up-and-coming pros that have displayed extremely high levels of offense for their time. They were always praised for their high level of mechanics and control over the ball. On the surface, it may seem like mechanics are the only difference between you and today's top-tier pros, but there's an entire world of game sense that is required to even come close. Control is only half of what makes a player's offense good. It is only the tools that get the job done. The rest is about knowing how to use those tools properly. This is how to achieve God-tier offense. Being able to create scoring opportunities is one of the most important parts of offense. Creating a scoring opportunity means putting you or your team in a position where getting a goal is possible. It could be as simple as getting a good 50 on the ball that you're able to score from, or hitting the ball into a place that the opponents can't reach and letting your teammate do the cleanup. This is something that every Rocket League player has done, but each rank is able to do it at different levels. There's a lot that goes into creating scoring opportunities. 1. Being able to take the initiative and create scoring opportunities. 2. Being aware of everyone's current position on the field. 3. Having good timing. And 4. Being able to position to make an opportunity happen. Taking initiative can be surprisingly difficult to do when playing in matches. It is easy to get swept up in the flow of the game and have neither the time or the proper position to create an opportunity. This is something that is very common in low to mid GC lobbies, so anywhere from 1400 to low 1700. With the pace of the games being much higher, players naturally try to move faster than they need to. This is why it can feel like you're being taken hostage by the flow of the game and are unable to create scoring opportunities. Because of this, players think that mechanics are the reason why they can't make these opportunities happen, when in reality, it's all about positioning, awareness, and timing. When it comes to initiating a scoring opportunity, players tend to have it backwards. Mechanics don't allow you to take initiative to create a scoring opportunity. Mechanics only allow you to carry out the initiative that you already took. Mechanics are used for the rest of the attack. The initiation itself is the starting line. If you want to learn how to create opportunities, you need to know how to properly get to the starting line. Positioning, awareness, and timing are the 3 things that are required to reach that starting point. We'll go over each of these concepts individually and explain why each of them are important. Awareness allows you to understand what's going on in the play, and is the most important thing when it comes to creating an opportunity. When you are aware of everything that's going on in the match, you will be able to know how the play is going to unfold. When you know how the play is going to unfold, you will then know where to position your car and how to time your attack properly. If you don't have awareness, you won't be able to position yourself properly, and you won't have good timing. So try not to lose focus on what's going on. Positioning is extremely important for making scoring opportunities. The entire reason why some players find it hard to create them is because they have bad positioning. If you want to have good positioning, you need to use your awareness to think ahead of the play. If you're able to think ahead, you will be able to know exactly where the ball will end up. It's not just knowing where the ball will be, it's also about being in the position to get to where you need to be before it's too late. The ideal position to be in for almost any play is a place where you can play for multiple different possibilities. Each of these different possibilities could lead to different things, and some of those things can be the starting point. Knowing which possibility is happening and being able to act on it will allow you to create attacks more effectively. Timing is also important for creating scoring opportunities. There are many parts that require proper timing, so we'll just go from where it's needed from the beginning to the end. Timing for when you're going to the starting point is extremely important. You need to make sure that you aren't abandoning any of the possibilities and playing for a starting point that's still uncertain. In Rocket League, anything is possible, so a possibility that you abandoned early could lead to you taking yourself out of the play entirely, and force you or your teammate to clean up after the mistake. Don't abandon the possibility until you're certain it won't happen, unless you understand the risk and are willing to take it. When you reach the starting point for making an opportunity, the timing for when you decide to touch it can make or break your play. The timing depends on where everyone is on the field, including you, your teammates, and their current situation. This is extremely situational, and there are many factors that can decide when and how you touch the ball. Just remember, your goal is to make the play as dangerous as possible, so try not to waste an opportunity by giving away the ball for free. There's a lot of things that goes into the creation of scoring opportunities. The examples I provided were mainly for aerial attacks, but the process of creating a scoring opportunity can be applied to ground attacks as well. This is the foundation for creating any offensive play. Now that you know how to start opportunities, it is now time to know how to finish them. If you want to properly take advantage of a scoring opportunity, you need to make sure that you're good at shooting the ball in the net. This is a section that will be relevant for every type of attack there is. There's a lot more to shooting than just hitting the ball to the top corner as hard as you can. That by itself is a strong shot, but it won't always be a good one. There are 2 things that can change how dangerous a shot is: the speed of the ball and the placement of the shot. Depending on the speed of the ball, the level of danger a shot has could change drastically. Shooting the ball extremely fast is the standard for almost any situation. especially in high-ranked lobbies where fast shot is extremely common. Fast shots don't go in just because they're fast, they go in because the opponent is unable to reach it from their position. The placement of your shot is the most important part of making your attack dangerous. In higher ranks, it doesn't matter how fast you shoot. If the ball has bad placement, it most likely won't go in. The perfect placement is a place where it's the hardest for the opponent to reach. With this in mind, you should start by looking at where the opponent is positioned. Based on their positioning, you'll be able to decide where you should be placing the ball. If you only take their positioning into account, it would make sense to put the ball in the place that is physically the furthest away from them. If the opponent was positioned at the bottom left corner of the net, it would make sense to shoot the ball to the top right. This is a good start, but this isn't enough to make your shot strong. The direction the opponent's car is facing and the momentum they have before you shoot is extremely important for determining where you should be placing the ball. Remember, you aren't just aiming for the spot that's furthest away from them, you are aiming for a spot that's the hardest for them to reach. When an opponent has their momentum or car pointed in a specific direction, they are better able to play for things that are directly in front of them. If you are properly able to manage your momentum, you will be able to defend a wider variety of attacks, and save a large amount of boost in the process. This is the benefit that comes with having your momentum pointed in the right direction. Managing your momentum is important for defense, but there are a few things that you need to be cautious of. The more momentum you have, the less flexibility you will have to save shots. Having your momentum going in a specific direction will increase your chance of saving any attack that is in front of you, but in return, you will lower your chances of saving a shot that isn't in your line of sight. This is what you need to take advantage of when shooting the ball. When you understand how the opponent's momentum and direction change what they're able to do, you are able to know the places they aren't easily able to reach. You should use this understanding of defense to know how to attack. You need to account for the opponent's positioning, direction, and momentum. This will give you perfect shots. Whenever you are shooting, you aren't supposed to just hit the ball anywhere you want. You are supposed to watch out for the opponents and counter them. Just like you're shooting, everything else in your attack needs to be for countering opponents. There are many players that have an attack planned in their mind and only worry about following the plan from the beginning to the end. This can result in an attack being plain and predictable. The mechanics themselves aren't what makes the attack dangerous, it's all about the intention behind them. In high-ranked lobbies, each use of a mechanic is used to get around opponents, and to keep your shot as dangerous as possible. The mechanics they use and the timing of them will change depending on the situation. Instead of just following a script in your head, you should try using your mechanics as a response to the opponent's actions. This is something that all SSL players do to make their attacks dangerous. Even though it sounds simple, it's much easier said than done. In order to counter opponents, you need to make sure that you're leaving multiple options available when attacking. Being able to watch the opponents during an attack is extremely important, but if you can't change the ball's direction, you won't be able to do anything with your awareness. There's a lot that's required to keep options open when attacking, and each kind of attack will have different requirements to maintain your options, so we'll go over that in the next sections ahead. For now, let's talk about the basic awareness needed for your attacks. Whenever you are attacking, your goal is to make it as dangerous as possible for your opponents. You need to keep an eye on their positioning, how much boost they have, and how they are challenging. In order to gather this information, you should try your hardest to keep your vision on the opponents as much as possible. The more information you have, the easier it is to know exactly what they're going to do. Keeping an eye on these three things will allow you to make adjustments to keep your attack as strong as possible. There are many differences between aerial attacks and ground attacks, so you'll need to watch out for and counter different things. In the next two sections, you'll learn what you need to look out for and how to keep your options open to counter it. Ground attacks are the most common type of attack among the general player base. Even though it's common, there's still a lot that you need to counter, and a lot that goes into maintaining its danger. Before we talk about the counters, we need to briefly go over each mechanic that should be at your disposal. Dribbles are a mechanic that allows you to keep control over the ball, and is the most common way to keep your options open when attacking from the ground. Flicks are a mechanic that allows you to launch the ball anywhere you want and is useful for attacks. It is a very common mechanic that has multiple variations and almost always comes after a dribble. These are the two main mechanics that you need for ground attacks. As I said in the previous section, you need to watch out for their positioning, how much boost they have, and how they are challenging. For ground attacks, the way the opponents behave will be completely different compared to aerial attacks. Keeping your vision on the opponents is crucial for keeping your ground attack as dangerous as possible. There are two common methods that opponents will use when challenging. The first way is to position themselves into a place where they can play for the highest number of possibilities. The second way is hiding behind the ball to limit the amount of information you can gather, making it easier for them to challenge. We will go over when these two types of defense tend to happen and how you can counter them. The most common method of challenging is to be in a position to play for as many different attacks as possible. Players will defend this way in almost any situation. They aren't just playing for the possibilities of how your attack plays out, they are also playing for the possible gaps in your offense, and will try their hardest to exploit any weaknesses. The best way to play against this is to limit the weak moments in your offense. Any moments when you don't have a second option or aren't in a position to use it properly are the opportunities for your opponents to challenge. The opponents will try to decrease the number of options you have, so always make sure you are threatening a dangerous shot. Pay attention to your opponents and be ready for anything they might try to do. The second way that people defend is by hiding behind the ball to limit the vision you can get on them. This type of situation mainly happens when players are shadow defending. They tend to do this whenever they plan on challenging you to forcibly get out the situation. In high ranks, the opponents know that the more information you have on them, the harder it is for them to get out the situation without getting scored on. Because they know this, they'll try their best to hide behind the ball to keep your vision on them to a minimum. When you can't see them, the information you can get on them will be limited, making it harder for you to make a proper attack. This is one of the things you need to counter. To counter a situation like this, you have two options available to you. You can either try to gather more information on them or attack with the information you currently have. If you want to gather more information, I highly recommend doing it only if you have a large distance to cover. With a larger distance, you will still have many options available to you without taking yourself out of a scoring position. If you want information, you can either change your approach to attacking or use your camera to see around the ball. Changing your approach can be as simple as shifting your position slightly off to the side, or taking the ball from the ground to the air. Any significant change in the play you're making is almost guaranteed to put the opponents back into your line of sight. Just make sure you are still able to be a threat even after changing your approach. If you don't want to change your approach, you can use your camera to look around the ball to see the opponent. This can be something like toggling ball cam as you're dribbling to see the opponent, or using your right stick to look around the ball. I personally find it easier to just change my approach for attacking, but I have seen some people do this before and have it work in their favor. It feels wrong to leave it out just because it's uncommon. If you want to use the information you currently have at your disposal, I would only recommend doing it if you're close enough to make a good shot. When you have a small distance between you and the net, you will have less freedom to change your position, and if you try to, you could end up making your attack weaker. Putting a strong shot on target as soon as they begin to hide is a valid option for dealing with this kind of situation. Forcing your opponent to save a difficult shot is almost always better than letting them hit the ball right off the top of your car. Keeping multiple options available when attacking is all about your position relative to the ball. Whenever players are dribbling, it is common for them to keep the ball towards the front of their car. People do this to constantly be in the position to flick, but this will limit the options you have available to you and will make your attack weaker. Dribbling with the ball closer to the top of your car will give you more options to attack. Instead of only being locked into flicks, you can create ground-to-air dribbles. Another alternative is going for a low 50 instead of a flick. With good timing, a strong low 50 can get you free goals, and is very effective against players expecting a high shot. With these three options available to you, you're able to counter opponents as long as you have the proper timing. Aerial attacks are much more advanced than ground attacks, and is far more mechanically demanding. With the trade-off of this attack being more difficult to pull off, it has the potential to be extremely hard to defend against. Let's go over every mechanic that is used for aerial attacks. Air dribbling is the primary mechanic used for aerial attacks and is the most important aerial mechanic to master. This mechanic is necessary for keeping control in the air and creating opportunities. Resets are a mechanic that allows you to regain your flip in the air. This mechanic is used to create more options to attack, and is also used to get around opponents. This mechanic has many other variations, like rapid resets and pop resets, which have seen a lot more usage recently. I will give an honorable mention to the Musty Flick, which has continued to be an extremely strong mechanic over the years. It allows you to get absurdly fast aerial shots, and is a very popular mechanic in high level 1s. For aerial attacks, you don't have to worry about the opponents hiding behind the ball as much as you do for ground attacks. There are two different challenges you need to look out for. They can either challenge from the ground, or challenge you from the ceiling. For aerial challenges, the primary concern isn't their ability to hide behind the ball. It's their ability to quickly shut down your possibilities and not even give you a chance to change the ball's direction. Challenges can happen very fast, so you need to be careful of them. Some players in high-ranked lobbies will patiently wait for your aerial attack, and then challenge when you naturally have less options. When the opponents wait for your attack to play out, they are not only testing your mechanical ability, they are also challenging when it's easiest to predict. Ground challenges, ceiling challenges, and opponents that wait are the three things that you need to counter. For ceiling challenges and ground challenges, you have to worry about the opponent's speed and the opponent's momentum. These two factors are extremely important when trying to counter an opponent that's challenging. The speed of the opponent's challenge can determine how much time you have before needing to change the ball's direction. When the opponent is going fast, a quick and subtle change can be all it takes to counter them. If the opponent's speed is very low, They are able to float and play for multiple different attacks more effectively. If they have a lot of boost, this can be a very difficult situation to counter, especially if you have to cover a long distance. The common method for dealing with any opponent that challenges is to get a reset and change the ball's direction. Reset pops have seen a massive rise in popularity among high-ranked players. This is the perfect mechanic to get around an opponent while keeping control. Another valid way of countering an opponent is to either go high or low depending on where they challenge you. If they are challenging from the ground, you can go high. If they are challenging from the ceiling, you can go low. This won't always be the case for all scenarios because the amount of momentum the opponent has can quickly change how you should treat their challenge. The momentum the opponent has is something that you need to be careful of. Trying to counter their momentum by going the same direction as it is not always a good idea. It's only fine to do if they are way too slow to the ball or don't have enough resources to be a threat. The best way to counter a threatening opponent's momentum is to go the opposite direction. If they have their momentum going up, you can instantly get a reset and stop yourself from going any higher. If you stop your upwards momentum at the right time, the opponent will have too much momentum going up and will find it difficult to go back down to catch you. If the opponent's momentum is going down, having a sudden burst of upward momentum can completely throw them off. Momentum is extremely hard to change, so using their momentum to your advantage will make your attack stronger. For an opponent that challenges late, you have to use all the knowledge you have about the opponent's speed and momentum to counter them. Being consistent and always having a second option available right until the last moment will help you deal with these kinds of challenges. People who play patiently like this are testing your ability to keep a shot dangerous the whole way through, and tend to challenge instantly right at the last moment. Sitting back and patiently watching the attacker is a common way to defend in 1v1. In high-ranked 1v1s, players tend to use the musty flick as a constant second option. An aerial musty flick is one of the hardest things to defend against in 1s. This kind of shot constantly threatens something that can go absurdly fast, giving opponents no time to react to the situation. With you being able to control the speed of the ball and its direction, the musty flick has stayed a popular attack as a second option. The musty flick doesn't always have to be your second option. Reset pops or even holding onto a basic reset can be enough even for the highest levels of 1s. Keep your attack consistently strong and don't lose control. I don't have much of a conclusion for this, but there is one thing I would like to mention. If you found my videos helpful and wish to see more, I highly recommend subscribing. This isn't something I normally ask for, but only a small percentage of people actually do. You might even be able to go up a rank or two. But anyways, thanks for watching and don't get tilted.